Hey, Mindful Living family, welcome back to another episode where we dive deep into all things spiritual growth, self discovery, and holistic wellness. I'm your host, Sana, and your curious guide on this journey. And today I am beyond excited to chat with the incredible Hope Fitzgerald, a visionary speaker, intuitive dowser, and the pioneering force behind a powerful tool called the Infinity Wave. Now, listeners, through life changing visions back in 2010, Hope discovered this 10th dimensional energy, which can transform suffering into freedom, like waving a magic wand. But it's real. Yes, it is real. And she's devoted her life to raising consciousness across the globe. And she's here on the Mindful Living to share her wisdom on the Infinity Wave, intuitive dowsing, and how these practices might just make your life a whole lot lighter. So, listeners, buckle up for a mind expanding conversation on the mindful living today. So, Hope, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor having you with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Sana. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Hope, before we talk about the topic, the infinity wave, it sounds so mystical. So, if you could tell us how you first encountered this 10th dimensional energetic tool and what inspired you to share it with the world.
Well, it came to me. I didn't invent anything. I I was walking across my living room one day, and there was this giant wave in front of me, very, very high, and quite beautiful. It was moving towards me, but it didn't feel threatening at all. And as I stood there taking in this sight, there was a kind of a ticker tape, a series of words that popped up in my mind. And I'm going to paraphrase, but it said, "This wave represents a push of evolution that is coming to the planet. And if you learn to surf it or swim with it, not resist it, life will go better for you." We all know that when you stand at the shore and resist the wave, stand there tightly, you're going to get knocked down. So the advice was learn to go with it. Then the next thing I knew, that wave turned on the side. So now I was looking at a great big curling wave. It looked like a big letter C, where a surfer would normally be coming through the middle there. And this time there was a message that said, as the water in the ocean pulls away from the shore and deepens into the seabed to get its energy to create the cresting wave. That's the physics of a wave. It goes down into the earth, and then that's what propels it up. Yeah. So should you, meaning me, but really meaning all of us, leave all your book learning, all your knowledge on the shore and go to the earth. And go to the wisdom keepers of the earth for your knowledge. And so now I'm, being told to dump everything that's in all my books and all the things that are in my head and just go to the earth and the wisdom keepers of the earth. And then this curling wave the water didn't just fall down into the ocean as it normally would, but it turned into a figure 8 of flowing water. And it looks like that. That's the closest thing I can let people see. So that figure 8 made of flowing water, there was no message to it. And it just hung out in front of my forehead, basically about 2 feet out, about this 18 inches high. And it just hung out there for 3 days. And I could see through it, but I was aware of it. And finally, after 3 days, I said, this is silly. I need to find out what this is because it's kind of annoying, actually. And I sat down with my dowsing rods, and now I'm going to show people what those are. These are my dowsing rods. They are metal rods with a sleeve so that they can operate freely within that sleeve. And I have been using these for 30 years to speak to universal intelligence, to understand next best steps for myself, but I always also do this for clients. And by now I've developed really my own system of working with them, and it's quite they're my friends and they're quite accurate. So I got out my dowsing rods and I proceeded to ask a bunch of questions about what this figure eight of flowing water was. And over the course of several sessions, I came to understand that it was a loving gift from the universe for us to be able to stay in a flow state. And inherent in the water is this 10th dimensional, which we don't have to get hung up on all the dimensions and all that, but just that means a very highly refined love and compassion. 10th dimensional love and compassion inherent in the water. And then I was told that I should teach about this, which I didn't want to do. I have been a spiritual, curious person, like you said, and I still am. But I'd been that my whole life. I'd studied many different things, gone down many paths, many roads, many philosophies, religions, techniques, healing, blah, 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 blah. You name it. But it was my own private journey, and I was very happy to keep it that way. But what I was being told was that those days were over and I needed to step out and I needed to start teaching about and they gave me a name, the infinity wave. Now, I kind of didn't want to do it, as I said, and I pushed back a little, but they reminded me that I had made a pledge to really surrender myself to source and to be in any way useful. And it was only a week since I had made that pledge when the infinity wave came in. So I was reminded I had made that pledge and I needed to go forward. So I did. So that's how it all started. Then I did these workshops as they told me to. And I had no idea what I was teaching. I knew it had to do with evolution. At that time in 2010, people weren't walking around talking about evolution, I promise you, because I looked it up. And I thought, well, it's not just, we think of evolution as something happening slowly in the background, and we're somewhere in the string of things, right? String of events. But this was not that. This was saying, no, this is about spiritual evolution and it's quickening, and you need a new tool to be able to stay in that flow state of love and compassion when things are going to get bumpy, as we have seen they have, and they are. So now I completely understand why they gave us such a runway starting in 2010 to be able to start practicing this and spreading it around the world. And so that more and more people, the more people who use the infinity wave, the more we raise the consciousness of the entire planet, just quietly, it's amazing. It's a very, very powerful tool. So I'll stop there in case you want to ask more questions.
No, I would like, I don't know, I would love to listen to you hours and hours long, because this is so, so advanced. And, but I think people should get to know, And, as you mentioned, the infinity wave, it can uh, swiftly transform suffering into freedom. So, if you can share some simple ways we can use it and use it in our everyday routines, whether it's dealing with stress, relationships, or personal setbacks, especially in the modern context.
Sure. Well, I want to just draw attention to the geometry, right? It's automatically balanced, right? As above, so below.
Yeah.
And one thing we need to make sure to understand is that there is no connection in the middle. The water flows continuously and infinitely, all right? So when I talk about how to use it, it's good to remember that point. Um, there's there's something I can't tell you. I have hundreds of pages of transmissions now because I began to channel when this all happened. I didn't really think I would ever do that, but now I do it quite a lot. And so I've been told a lot of things about the infinity wave, but one of them is that it is a in its simplicity of its design, it can't be corrupted. We have seen many, many miraculous things that have happened through thousands of years on the planet that are recorded in holy books and this and that. And what happens is the miraculous happens, and then humanity, human minds get in there and start to want to lock that down and make that miraculous somehow repeatable, or it, it's an unfortunate habit of ours, but it's what our minds do. They try to capture something that's ephemeral and make it concrete.
Yep.
You can't do that with this. You can't use language to corrupt it. You can't twist it into something else. It's just a pure geometry. And the geometry has been around forever. So it's not that the geometry is new. What is new is the water combining with the geometry. And we have to remember that water has many properties, as people like the great, wonderful Veda Austin has been doing all this research on water. Uh, and there have been many people before her who have done research on water and the consciousness of water. The fact that water is impressionable, the fact that water changes molecularly depending on what it's exposed to, whether in music or in language or in thought. And that's important. These experiments prove that if we think negatively about a glass of water, its molecules will become very murky and muddy. Whereas if we think positively about the water in a glass next to it, they become crystalline like snowflakes. It's that, and we have to remember that we have water all in our bodies and in our beings, right? So how we impress upon the water in our bodies makes a big difference. So it's no accident that the infinity wave is made of water. I could go on and on about that, but I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, so how can we use it? Well, we can use it with our imaginations. It's all in the imaginal realm. But when you look around your room, so here I am in this room, every single thing in this room has been imagined before it became physical. The imagination is incredibly powerful. As we know, anybody who's tried to do any manifesting or visioning or anything like that, the imagination is our connectivity to the divine. So when we imagine a figure eight of flowing water, just put it in our bodies, put it in our hearts. All of a sudden we have this lovely, and by the way, it can turn any direction, and it is intelligent. It knows what is needed in a situation. But even so, you can imagine, let's put it in the heart and let's run it back and forth in the heart. Well, what starts to happen almost without even blinking an eye, you start to go, oh, okay, I'm settling down now. Ah, that feels good. Well, what we're doing is we're inviting love and compassion at 10th dimensional level into the very core of your being. And immediately your whole body starts to relax because we all need it. We don't give ourselves love and compassion. And this isn't even us giving it to us. It is the infinity wave giving it to us because it's already baked in. We don't have to try and get into a state of, okay, I'm feeling really loving now. No, we don't have to do that. It's the other way around. We use the wave and we enter automatically. We soften and we enter into that state. So we can use it. And in my book, I outline several ways to use it. So this is one, in the heart. Okay. We can use it in the body in multiple ways, but I also like to use, sorry, let me back up one way. If we're having an emotional moment, if we're super angry or upset for whatever reason, we identify where in my body is that happening. For me, I get it in my stomach. I get it in my gut. So you can take the wave and you can turn up the water flow like it's a spring river running fast, and put that where you're holding your emotion and just let it run. And what happens is it immediately starts to bring you down. I have many stories about this, but the speed with which it shifts emotional states is frankly unbelievable. It really, really works. The other thing you can do is you can run a wave. When I say run a wave, I mean imagine a wave flowing between your heart and another person's heart. Now, you can do this with someone, even if they don't know you're doing it. It's not going to hurt them at all. You're basically just delivering them love and compassion. Who wouldn't benefit from that? And the beautiful thing is that what you're sending out is also coming back to you. And it flows out and it flows in and it flows out and it flows in. And what you will notice is that whatever conversation you're having will now kind of lift up, be on a better frequency, because we've introduced a 10th dimensional frequency into a 3-dimensional frequency. So 10D is going to stay down here. 10D is going to lift 3D up. See? We don't have to know where it's going to lift it to, but you can just, if you're having a argument or somebody's upset, you just run the wave, just quietly, silently run the wave with them, and they'll start to calm down and they'll start to, find a better way to express themselves. And now you can have an interaction. It's quite something. Anyway, so those are 2 ways. Now, a third thing is if you have someone who would be willing to do the wave with you, now the 2 of you are running the wave back and forth. Well, that just becomes a love fest. It's just amazing. In less than a minute, you're like butter, or like ghee, you're very, very opened up and in a beautiful state. So those are a couple of things.
Wow. I mean, I think it explores the power of imagination, as you mentioned, and that connection which we can explore mindfully. How much awareness it creates within your mind and your body. I think it's unfathomable. And, thank you, Hope, for sharing these applications in such a simple language. So also, another topic which, I think our listeners would love to explore is dowsing. It's ancient, it's intriguing. How do you integrate intuitive dowsing into modern life? Can beginners use dowsing rods or, let's say a pendulum effectively, or is it something that take years to master?
That's a really good question. It's yes and it's both.
Okay.
You can start using dowsing immediately. I believe everybody can dowse, and I like to teach dowsing so that everybody is empowered to explore the a connection with their higher self and get a better perspective. And it is a lifelong study of how to, number one, get out of the way. Most people I talk to say, I tried dowsing, but I don't trust that I'm getting the right answers. I don't trust myself. And so that takes some, well, it takes some practice to learn to step aside enough so that the information, for me, the information comes straight down and I'm out of the mix as much as possible. So that's one thing that takes some practice. The other thing that takes some practice is how to ask the questions, because most of the time we are assuming things when we ask questions. And aside from that, we're often not detailed or specific enough. So if you ask me, should I travel to Delhi tomorrow? Right? I wouldn't say, should Sana travel to Delhi tomorrow? I would rephrase that. I would rephrase that as, first of all, I take the widest perspective. Is it in Sana's highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good to travel anywhere tomorrow? And if I got a yes, then I'd say, okay, is it in her highest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual good to travel to Delhi tomorrow? And maybe I get a 50%. And then I would say, well, is it in her highest physical good? And I get an answer, and mental good and spiritual good, etc. So I might then have to take wherever it's a not sure, not quite right, then I take that and I go deeper with that. Well, if it's not, let's say it came back, no, it's not in your highest physical good, but it's in your highest emotional good. Maybe you're going to see a family member and you or a friend and you really, really wanted to go there. And so emotionally, that would have been solved. But physically, maybe you have a cold, maybe maybe it's too expensive. Maybe you're leaving behind something that really needs tending to. There are all kinds of reasons that it might not be in your highest good. But then we say, well, let's walk around that and let's figure out how we could adjust things so it would be in your highest physical good. Maybe there's a cat sitter you can get to take care of your cat. Maybe there's a loan you can get to pay for the ticket. Maybe there's, any number of things. And then we figure all that out. So now we get 100% reading. Yes, it's in your highest good. As long as you do these things, it's in your highest good to go to Delhi tomorrow. That's a very simple answer, but people come to me with very complex questions. And what happens with me, because I've been doing this for 30 years now, and because I've become a channeler, as soon as I start dowsing for somebody, I start to hear words and see pictures sometimes, and I get direction on how to go so that we're not completely limited to yes and no questions. So you can see that it's, and I also have a psychology background, so that helps also. But I encourage everyone to learn how to dowse, because we all need to remember that we're not alone here. We have a guide team. We have our higher selves. Gosh only knows what else we've got, with us. We have creator or source or whatever you want to call it, God. And all of these unseen friends want to work with us and want to contribute to us having a beautiful life and a life that fulfills our mission, which might not be what we think it is. So when we dowse, we have to be willing to hear the answer. And even if it's something we might not want, should face. I did not want to start teaching about anything in the spiritual realm, but I had to face it And I they would not let me off the hook. I had to go forward. So sometimes it's like that, and you have to take up your role, what you came here to do.
Yes.
So
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I think uh, it will help in making decisions, which are truly aligned, as you mentioned about physical, mental, spiritual. Uh, but, on the contrary, this might be a perspective of few of our listeners. So some people might roll their eyes at terms like, 10th dimensional energy or dowsing rods. So how do you address those who view this as, maybe not practical, rather than a legitimate spiritual practice?
oh well, they're ultimately practical. Everything I do is practical. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't. I have spent in previously to all this, I spent a lot of time flying around in the ethers, being very, out there. And, but that wasn't very practical way to live. That was not really being fully embodied. And it felt great and I had a wonderful time, but it was not improving my life. We're
Mm.
here in a body, and it's a blessing that we need to, you know, to use. We need to take this body and this mind and this spirit and meld them together in the best we can. We come here with a goal. We come here maybe with more than one goal, but we come in with a goal. And determining what that goal is the most important thing, so that we can get on with it. The more focused we are and the more we understand the role we're here to play, the more life is actually interesting, the more embodied we are, the more excited we are. So people can roll their eyeballs all they want. I'm surrounded by people who roll their eyeballs. That doesn't matter to me. That's just where they are, and God bless them. But anybody who is pushing the envelope a little, or feeling a little stagnant, or feels like there's something else that's
Mhm.
being asked and they don't know what it is, get
Mhm.
the practical tools. Put yourself in wave energy, put yourself in a state of love and compassion, a state of flow, and then ask the questions and start probing, or find somebody who can help you answer the questions if you don't feel adequate to do it yourself. It's of primary importance. So, I can't change anybody's mind, but
Exactly.
I have many, many stories of how this infinity wave has shifted reality in a nanosecond. It does. It just does. And the other thing about it is that when we affect change on ourselves, that's when change can happen in the field. It starts with us. So when we choose, it's important that we make a choice. When we choose to try the infinity wave, and it's not a religion. It's not like, it's free and open and available to everybody. When somebody chooses to try it on, just see what happens. Play with it. Raise your vibration quickly and easily. You don't have to go to a cave anymore. You don't have to spend 30 years isolated. That was true then, but that's not true now. Life is moving very, very quickly, and we need something that's very fast to get us plugged in to an alignment and to a flow state. That's what we need. So that's what this is.
I totally, totally agree with you. And I think the best part is, you know, it's on the basis of questioning and reasoning. And, that's something which makes it way, way much more practical than anything. So, totally agree with you. And, of course, that here's my favorite question. If you can share maybe a one or two memorable stories, where the infinity wave or dowsing, it led to a profound transformation for someone. You have worked across the globe, you have worked with individuals, with communities. So if you can share.
Okay, real quick here. I will tell you one story that is the one of the best. And that is I went with a friend of mine, flew across the country here in the US to have a surgery. It was quite a risky surgery. It was on her neck and it required bone, muscle, and nerve. And there was only one surgeon who could do that. So we went out there and she had read a book about hypnosis before surgery. And so one of the things they had told her to do was to write down on a little piece of paper what you wanted the anesthesiologist to say as you go under into anesthesia and come out. So she had done that, and it was on a beautiful piece of Italian paper. And anyway, we went through all the preparations, and I'm sitting with her. She's in her gown. She's got her little operating cap on, and we're just waiting and waiting for the anesthesiologist who finally came in. And it was this middle-aged woman. And she had on a very interesting surgical cap. It looked like I don't know. We have these old-fashioned pizza hats that kind of go around like this, and then they puff out like this. Well, it was a smaller version of that. I'd never seen anything like it. And it had little red flecks on it. And anyway, she came and stood opposite me at the foot of the bed. And she had a clipboard, and she was just looking down at her clipboard, and she never, ever made eye contact with my friend. And she just she was absolutely devoid of humanity as she read off the medicalese, what we're going to do today, and blah, 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 blah. And it was all, all about her, the operation. And I could see that my friend, because it was so important to her to have the anesthesiologist be, accepting of her piece of paper with what she wanted her to say. And there she's confronted with this person in an ice box. She started to get very worried. I could see her eyes were getting big, and she was almost going to cry because, of course, she's terrified. This one slip of the knife and she's paralyzed. So this is a very risky surgery. Anyway, so as I was looking at this woman and seeing my friend getting upset, I said, and this is a year after the wave came in, I said to myself, I don't like this picture. I want a different one. And out of my mouth came the words, I like your hat. But out of my body came this pop. And I didn't even know what had happened, but the woman's head popped up and swung to my friend. And she went, hey, babe, how are you? We're going to do such a good job with you today. Oh, what do you have for me? This beautiful piece of paper. It looks like a recipe. Oh, my gosh. Do you want me to say these things? I'm happy to say these things. And both my friend and I, our jaws absolutely dropped because in a nanosecond, she completely changed and became warm and fuzzy and delightful. And what I realized was what came out of my body. I mean, I could feel like a punch coming out of my body was a blast of an infinity wave. Now, I knew that's what it was, but I didn't think it. I just thought, I don't like this picture. I want a different one. The wave took over. The wave is intelligent. The wave knows what's needed. All you have to do is say you want it. And it completely flooded that poor woman, who knows how many hours she'd been awake, how many surgeries she's done. Does she have sick kids at home? I don't know. But she was devoid of love and compassion for sure. And she got a major dose, and it hit her field, and she completely rose to her highest self. And she took care of my friend beautifully after that. So that's an example of how this thing can change reality and shock, you'll just stand there in shock as it happens. It's happened many times, not just to me, but other people. So that's probably my most powerful.
Yeah, that is so inspiring. And also, before we wrap up, I think half an hour is not a justifiable time to discuss, so many layers for these topics to be discussed about. But what's your advice for listeners who feel skeptical, but they are curious about diving into the infinity wave or intuitive dowsing for their own growth?
Well, look, it doesn't cost anything to start imagining a figure eight of flowing water in your body or in your heart. It doesn't cost anything. Just try it. Play with it. Think of it as a playful thing. Play as you're sitting in traffic. Wave the cars in front of you. Send a wave to them. It clears up traffic. It works like Ganesh. It moves the obstacles away. So this is the property of water, one of the properties of water. It clears the way. It finds the path of least resistance. It cleanses, and you will find you start to move along. But more importantly, when you're sending the wave out into traffic, it's coming back to you and it's calming you down. So you're not getting all tense and upset about, being late or being stuck in traffic. So these are the kinds of things that you can start to play with, as you're standing in line at the grocery store. Wave the checkout person. If you're not doing self-checkout, wave the checkout person and see if when you get there, they smile at you or they say something nice or, but just altruistically send the wave to people. It is a prayer, and their lives are going to benefit. Just last night, so I have community called. I have Monday nights I do free meditations. I have something every Monday night at 7:30 Eastern. And last night we had what I call the community share, which is usually on the last Monday of the month. And it's a time for everybody to come in and just kind of talk about what's up for them and what's up in the world and how they've used the wave and how it's worked. And a woman came on and said, I was waving my son before I had a phone call with him while he was driving. She said, I was waving and waving and waving. And then we got on the phone. She said, this son happens to have cancer and things have been very heavy and tense because they have different ideas about how to treat it. But she waved him. And then she got on the phone with him and he was upbeat. He was listening. He was open. She said, I know it works because that's not how he was the day before. So just try it. There's no harm done. And at the very least, if you do the wave within your own self, we are not used to receiving love and compassion at that level, but we're built for it. We're dry sponges and we need it. So just see how it feels to toy with the wave in your heart and your very being, and see how you do.
Very great. I would encourage all of our listeners to try it out. I'm going to definitely try it out. And hope, of course, if our listeners would like to connect with you and also check out your new book, The Infinity Wave, how they can do that.
I have a website called spreadinfinitehope.com. Spreadinfinitehope.com. And that's where you could sign up. I write a weekly newsletter. I have my Monday night events, and you can find the book on any, bookseller, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, etc. I recommend the book. It's a handbook. It's a little book, but took me 10 years to write this because it's written for both the experienced spiritual traveler and for the new person. And so that took a little massaging to get that language right for everybody. There are diagrams in the book that explain what I'm talking about. And the other thing is, though, tomorrow I am launching an audiobook. So that's also going to be available. So those are the places I would go. And if you want to have a session with me, you can go to the website.
Okay. We'll have the details in the show notes for sure for all of our listeners to refer to and connect with Hope. And Hope, thank you so much for giving us hope and giving us, helping us feel inspired, sharing your experiences, your knowledge, your wisdom with the Infinity Wave, and letting us peek behind the curtain of intuitive dowsing. I mean, you truly live up to your name. That's what all I can say. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sana, and thank you, all your listeners.
So, listeners, if today's chat lit a spark in your heart, be sure to check out Hope's new book, The Infinity Wave, and also check out her audiobook, which is releasing tomorrow. You can refer to the show notes and check her website, connect with her, and you can also harness these transformative tools in your own life. And that's a wrap on this episode of Mindful Living. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and remember your potential is as infinite as the waves themselves. Thank you.